Yeah, that's actually a good question. Private interpretation is not taboo. Private interpretation, we need that. I mean, and we all do that in all walks of life, right? I mean, everybody interprets things privately. However, that doesn't mean that my private interpretation is the definitive interpretation or it's the infallible or an inerrant interpretation of any Bible verse or any teaching of scripture or anything like that. My private interpretation is not the final word or the final interpretation. The final interpretation, the definitive interpretation, belongs only to the magisterium of the church. But that doesn't mean that I can't go about interpreting scripture and wondering about these things and doing, theologizing or philosophizing about these things, thinking about these things and reflecting on them and coming to possible conclusions about them. This is how theology is done. Theology looks at scripture and it looks at the teachings of the church, and not a lot of things in retrospect, not a lot of things in hindsight are defined by the church. There's a lot of open questions that people wonder about, that people think about, that people pose answers to, but these are not definitive answers, but they're answers that are given by theologians that are simply thinking about these things. Many people will look at scripture and read it and come to theories about what scripture is saying. That doesn't mean that these theories are definitive, it's just their opinion. If it's not in opposition to the church's teaching or any of the church's teachings, then it's a theory that can be posed and can be thought about, and it can be debunked by other people, or it could be proven to be false or something like that. What's required by us as Catholics is that when the church does teach something as definitive, which, like I said, there are actually few things in relation to how many things are out there. When the church does teach something as definitive, we as believers are assent to that truth, and then we use that as part of what we're going to think about as we go on in doing theology. So when the church does define something as inerrant teaching, we thank God for this, because this is a new thing that we can rely on as absolutely true, and then we can take that and build more theories on it and wonder more about what God has taught us. Private interpretation is not a bad thing unless it is intentionally and knowingly in opposition to something that the church or that scripture has definitively laid down as true. Otherwise, private interpretation is a good thing. It's a good thing to wonder about these things. It's a good thing to theorize about these things and to philosophize about these things. And you are encouraged to do that. But just know that you and me, we don't have in our own powers the ability to know things definitively. My theories about what scripture is saying can very well be false. Could be true, but it could be false as well.